Welcome back, everyone. We got ourselves a proxy. Top left, it is uThermal doing the proxy. Bottom right, we have Gungfubanda. uThermal. Pretty well-known proxier. Cheeser. People say that as if it's a bad thing. Just means he's got a lot of builds. And one of them is going to be a proxy reaper, the good old-fashioned proxy. Gungfu is scouting with a probe, sees no barracks, scouts for the hidden cheeky barracks. Won't bother actually scouting first and foremost the presence of a second gas, because that also would have told him that it's actually committed, but wanted to check for the sneaky haha gotcha first. Gungfu is not going to change up his build too much. Oh, it does include the Zealot, but I think the intention was to go for a 7x score anyways. The Zealot is going to be extremely helpful for helping deal with any bunkers or just soaking up damage from the Reaper. You'll see some Protosses actually try and skip this. Can be very dangerous to do so. If the Zealot soaks up 1 or 2 shots or forces the Reaper to micro away, it's already done maybe a probe or 2 lives worth of save. That's a weird way to put it. Well, 1 probe's already gonna go down. That's not great. 1 probe in transit. It's kind of a freebie. 2 probes haven't gone down because of the bunker? Wait. Oh, he got a second one right there. I didn't see 1 go down. And I was like, the SCV guy? What the hell? Now, it's already 3, going on 4. The Zealot actually just went across the map. I don't know why. I actually don't know why at all. This is actually really confusing. Gungfu totally mishandling this. There's not much micro you can do unless you have a unit supporting. So the fact that 5 went down is not surprising considering that a Zealot went across the map, but why did it go across the map? It does get a little bit of scouting, but the Adept also could get scouting once it's cleared things up. I guess...
Hostile forces detected. Arming raid defenses.
No, I'm pretty confused about this. This is already a fantastic start, though. No matter the who, what, why, it's a fantastic start for uThermal. He's following it up with the Marauder proxy, actually. Oh my god, it's in the base. Oh my god, it's coming from inside the house. Gungfu is going to see a tech lab, but is he actually paying attention? Doesn't matter. Marauder slow is done. Marauders are out. Bunker is still up and running. uThermal going to add a lot more damage. Now, Marauders actually take a lot of shots to kill a probe. So, oh, they're going to go up to the shield battery. Oh, that makes so much sense. Yep, there you go. Now this one handling also supremely deadly. Those probes are so lined up. Oh my god, get out of the geyser. Get out of the geyser. Oh, no. Oh, this Hellion. Oh, once the shot's so bad, it's not going to get it though. So many Skittle probes. So many. And only 1 has fallen so far. Make that 2, but still, for how much could have been done, my goodness. That could have been so much worse. Thank you, Hydraulics D, for the 14 raid. Hello, Raiders. So this Reaper has been like chomping away at the Nexus, but that's obviously not a humongous threat. As long as the probes are rallied back to the main. This Reaper bunker combo was the least of his worries. Was there a build that involved a fast second gas from mech? No, not really, because pretty much 1 base doesn't really dictate your composition. Reaper finally goes down at the very least. Yeah, your 1 base choices don't really dictate if you're going bio or mech. You're gonna have double gas for a lot of different builds. It's how fast you get your 3rd and 4th gas that dictates it. uThermal, after doing all that damage, is gonna try and go ahead and get, you know, the command center up, even getting a 3rd command center on the way. Lots of barracks finishing up, only a single tank really to defend. This is probably it's the scariest part for the Terran. They know they interrupted the Protoss a lot, and it's possible the Protoss has decided to go for like a gateway counter. But the Reaper got in and saw what it could. The Marauders saw what it could, I suppose. And didn't see anything, I guess, that nodded towards, well, anything, really. Like, there's actually no scouting here for uThermal. Everything must have come down after the Reaper left. So that is scary, actually. That is really scary. That's why the tanks are on the high ground. Because the chicken was too busy for this show. uThermal did pop out a Liberator. Could have been helpful in the defense if necessary. Not necessary. Gungfu's gone into Blink Robo. 3 gateways, sure, but not 4. Liberator caused a little bit of lost mining time. And he's just going to continue to look for more lost mining time, but also a bit of that scout that I said was missing earlier on. Sees 1 gateway. That's not really telling. Thermal just wants to taste the rainbow, just wants all the Skittles. Liberator's gonna chill here, not do anything, but also not be a nuisance. For uThermal, he doesn't have to micro it. And uThermal, 3rd CC, just off of the back of factories, like a factory and a couple of units, is going to successfully get into the mid game. Which means that uThermal didn't ever fall behind because he was overly defensive, which could have happened in this game. 100% it could have happened because it might have been necessary. He might have had to have been defensive if Gungfu had decided to go aggressive. If he was able to proxy a gateway somewhere, then uThermal would be super glad he played defensive. But that's not what happened. Gungfu, pretty much at his heart a mackerer. I compared him to Showtime earlier and I'm sticking with it. Not the type of guy who's going to try and go for some serious revenge. Maybe a little bit of pressure. And uThermal may be realizing that, reading into it. Grabbed that fast 3rd CC, kept the worker counts close, which in this matchup, the Protoss really wants to skyrocket ahead given any opportunity. Only recently has Gungfu really gotten to that comfortable position, but uThermal's really not that far behind. Income graph, I guess, tells the tale. This is not what you would want to have happen for the Protoss side of things. You don't want to see that spike. That's not so good. But also, the economy is great for uThermal. His production is also great. He didn't have to kind of, quote-unquote, waste time building too many tanks, sticking on 2 or 3 barracks total, building bunkers against a non-existent 4-gate attack. Like, he just went swiftly into all of his barracks, seemingly all at once, has all of his add-ons, a little bit of supply block, let's ignore that. But point is, he's got his economy, he's got his army, he's got his technology. Gungfu only just now getting to his economy, just now getting to his technology, just now getting to his army. It's a little concerning. It's a little concerning, but this is where Romanicide's probably going to play big. Gungfu might be a little concerned, he might be a little weak, but he's got 2 very useful chokes on his side. And he can survive on 3 bases for a while. uThermal's included a Raven in the mix. Could open up an opportunity to blitz on top of the 3rd. Take out 1 or 2 Colossus. There's the 2nd one. Gungfu's got a lot of scouting. Respect on that one. Zealot passes by. Zealot here, Zealot there, Zealot everywhere. Oh my god, there's 4 Widow Mines defending against Zealot run-bys. That's gonna be overkill. I can see what uThermal's thinking though. Gungfu might actually try and just play that Protoss thing. I can't even call it a playstyle. It's a Protoss thing, right? Protoss either... In this game, I don't think you'd invest into a Warp Prism because you kind of want to get those Colossus out ASAP. But a Pylon warps in 6 Zealots slowly but surely. You're going to be thankful you have those 4 Widow Mines. But if they don't go for a lot of harassment, if they don't send a lot of Zealots across the map, then 4 Widow Mines is a lot to take away from the front lines. Funnily enough, uThermal's totally ready on the right side and did not expect the Zealots in the middle. So he loses 3 Widow Mines right then and there. Now that's a lot of Zealots. And they've overstayed their welcome. Quite a few will go down. uThermal's push. This is not his army. This was built ages ago. It's just a little taste test. It's just not supposed to die here. Why is uThermal staying here? That's a bad move. Raven could have been so useful. So useful in an actual direct engagement, but those run-bys have screwed uThermal up so bad. Look at where his army is. What is it even doing? That's very unfortunate. Gungfu now with that easy cleanup, not just on a decent amount of units, but the ever-important Raven, should now feel so comfortable in this game. There was like the scariest part was that uThermal might have a big old push with 1-1, with tanks, with a Raven, before Gungfu quite had his legs under him, but now it's not even a worry. You don't even have to worry about it. In fact, Gungfu's probably in the lead with his 4th Nexus already on the way. Double Forge, gonna be finishing up 2-1. He actually will still have an upgrade deficit, so to say he has a lead is it's a bit much. But it's not a secret that uThermal doesn't really appreciate playing against Protoss. And typically, if someone doesn't appreciate playing against a race, it doesn't get better as the game goes on. Like, I don't like Protoss early game, but late game Protoss, that's okay. Like, I don't hear that too often. So that, combined with Gungfu's just prowess in the matchup at this point, I'd say that Gungfu, while not physically super ahead, I think actually pacing-wise, mentally, I think he's actually super far ahead. See if uThermal can get some pretty sick engagements, though. He certainly has done so in the past. Very obnoxious observer is going to give every little detail to Gungfu. And it's so hard to see for the Terran. There we go.
Go, go, go. SCV ready.
Paying attention to the purple, you can see it.
SCV ready.
It's tough. Gungfu's going to be able to size up the actual defense, size up how much army is there. So are there army units over here or in the main? Like, pop out a warp prism or two. One's already here. It is chilling. Just chilling. It'll come in later. Gungfu, having his 4th base now, is also quick to getting to his 5th base, and we are getting ourselves into a proper late game TvP. I love this little setup of the Sim City. So playing some tower defense. Gungfu already took the map like 2 minutes ago, still has it, and is now using it to his advantage, plus the Observer, of course. uThermal accidentally runs into the entire Protoss army, loses his medevacs, forced to retreat back, now down to just 1 medevac? Oh no. Oh no. 10 Vikings though, I mean that's good. And 19 Marauders, I mean that's a good count, but want some more medevacs here. Upgrades are favorable for uThermal, but he doesn't want to take a fight in a choke. The longer he doesn't take a fight, though, the more that Gungfu is going to be out positioning him. It's actually kind of on the Protoss to beat Bop left and right in this situation. uThermal's actually going to go ahead and have to defend, because Gungfu went quite deep. Gungfu's not going to commit to that 3rd CC, just taking down some of them in the bunker, a couple supply depots. The Viking number is a bit worrying. Tank is going to be surprisingly obnoxious, as well placed as it is. But this is not Gungfu's full mights. He's actually getting a ton of upgrades. He's prepping for a late game Stargate transition. And he could go ahead and use any supply that he loses and use it to actually attack on the left. uThermal's very comfortable on 4 bases. 5 bases might be a lot more difficult. That's when we're going to be starting to talk about, you know, 5,000 mineral banks and DT blink. It's a bad combination for Terrans. They don't like it. They don't appreciate it so much. 4 bases, pretty much lock down a map like this. You really got to cover this and then make sure you don't get surprised over here. 5th base, it's starting to pull you a little bit. And I'd say the same for Protoss if Gungfu was the one under pressure, but it's Gungfu who is dealing out all the pressure. Finds a bit of an opening to take out the tanks here as they are mostly undefended, and that planetary probably could also go down. Not a whole lot of building breakers in Gungfu's army, but yeah, they'll go down. Anyway, I got ourselves a little bit of a base trade. uThermal heading over to the right side is going to take this opportunity to kill a Nexus and then maybe jump into the natural. I think one of the first things to go for would be this Dark Shrine IMO. Gungfu might recognize that. He's already building a couple of DTs. That is going to be 2 bases down. uThermal loses both planetaries. A recall happens. Gungfu going to replace his buildings quickly once he pushes this away. And I think he will be able to. It's not even an if. He will push this away. And uThermal has not yet grabbed this 5th base. I don't know if he wants to go for it either at this point. I mean, he doesn't know about it technically, but it's not really a surprise if Protoss is up 1 base against you. So he's not going to be able to get it up 5th base. Gungfu doesn't even replace his 4th. He replaces... He's getting a 6th. And that looks like it'll actually finish up Be Defended, and uThermal is the one that takes more losses overall. Game-breaking losses? No. But yeah, more losses overall. Has reset up his 4th base, but that is an orbital. Not nearly as easy to defend. He's never opened up these minerals either, so he can't join forces over here and has to go all the way around. His own Sim City might hurt him here, or it might be perfect, actually. A bit of a wall against the Protoss onslaught of Zealots is helpful. Liberator Siege is up. He's not going to be taken down too easily at all. Oh, Disruptors. And a couple of spares, I'd say. Good shots, but not devastating. uThermal still holding on, also having to deal with DT harassment. Never got into the natural, never took out the Dark Shrine. And uThermal just doesn't want to play this game anymore, realizing this was going to be the more of the same. Him defending, him being pulled apart, and didn't want to play that anymore. Second map's gonna be Lightshade. uThermal. They already did a lot to try and not let a macro game happen. I guess they'll try and do the same thing here. It is less likely to happen on Lightshade. Romanticide, you gotta... Even if you give yourself a little bit of an early game push, there's a lot of potential for your opponent to come back. And I do believe that's what happened. The mid-game never looked scary for Gungfu with the actual units, but I think it should have been. The attack never came, and worse than that, the attack didn't come, and it was only like, when it did come, it was like 20% of the army. Maybe not that low, it was like 30% of the army. And that's just easy cleanup. Easy for the Protoss to clean up, and they just took away 30% of your army. That was I think a game where uThermal did get himself a little bit ahead. Could have tried to push it for victory, but whether or not he did it 100% correctly, 100% perfectly or not, might have been a moot point, because Romanicide's quite good for the comeback. If you can get to 3 bases and splash, then you have a solid potential for bringing yourself back into the game or even taking a lead, like I thought Gungfu eventually did. Lightshade's a different story. Also, no proxy this time. Top left, it is uThermal. Bottom right, it is Gungfu. Did I take a nap between series? No, that would have been surprising. Gungfu's gonna get an immediate scouts. He did a pretty good job scouting against any gimmicks. Doesn't have to this time. Last game could have gone a million times better for uThermal, actually. As much as I think he still got ahead, he gave himself a little bit of a push in the early game to try and close out in the mid game, and he just wasn't able to. He could have gotten even more. He could have actually just ended the game in the early game. If that Hellion had gotten 2 shots on the clumped up probes when they were already weakened from all the Marauders, the Reapers, whatever, it's a big deal. It probably could have even gotten 3 shots. I think in total it might have gotten 3 shots, but it was just kind of all over the place. It just barely missed the big old clump of probes in the assimilator. That could have been, if all those probes go down, it's like 14 probes, Gungfu taps out then. There's no reason to play that out. But it was just shy of it. This little safety bunker on a map that doesn't have any natural ramp. Gungfu, he's a fan of the Twilight Council openers, and he's gonna do one again. I really love Twilight Council openers personally, as a gamer, e-gamer, and a StarCraft 2 watcher and commentator. There's still a lot of branches that come off of this trunk. So it could be 4-gate, 3-gate, 2-gate, DTs. So I think its variety is good, but also the way that it's used, I think is, I don't know. It's so beautiful. It's just a beautiful little opener. Happy little Twilight Council. The Reaper might have barely seen it. Yeah. I don't think it's much of a surprise, but Gungfu could have also been doing with Stargate opener. I was gonna say the Twilight Council opener feels like it has the highest skill cap, but that's not necessarily true. Stargate's very micro-intensive. Very tough decisions to be made. There's a lot of bad Stargate players and a lot of very good Stargate players. But I don't know. I always think that Stalkers have the mobility, the micro. They can be oddly good in some small unit scenarios. Like 3 Marauders, 4 Marines against 6 Stalkers, like a little micro-trainer battle. Where I see that against 4 Phoenix, and I'm like, the Phoenix lift, and oh, they're out of energy. Alright then. The point is, I like this way of playing. My favorite way of playing is the way that Zest does it a lot of the time, which is the, very gas-light play. It's gonna be sad when Zest goes to the military. It's coming, too. I feel like the apocalypse, the Korean apocalypse is nigh. Innovation all of a sudden just taken from us. Zest has actually been open about how he says, like, it could come at any second. He doesn't know. So what happens, the longer you push off military service, the more that's gonna kind of just come out of nowhere and surprise you. So yeah. But Hero's back, and Hero, when he was playing, was one of my top favorite Protosses. Which made it sad when I tried to say hello to him in Korean and he laughed at me. But it's okay. Forgive and forget. That is quite a little wall, isn't it? Gungfu has gone up to 4 gateways. So, if uThermal was expecting good old passive macro Gungfu, he'd be wrong. And there's nothing telling him that it's a 4-gate. So he's got a bunker, he's got a wall, that's great. He has no bunker on the high ground, he has no more tank production, he's anticipating a 2-gateway expansion build, and Gungfu's gone, get him! Go get him! Yeah, okay, that was kind of a miss-up. That was a weird play. That was less dramatic than I thought. The minerals blocked out his blink up, so that actually gives uThermal a second chance. If all of those Stalkers had blinked up, I think they kill the Raven and the Marines. They lose a couple of their lives, but then since they're already up on the high ground, they stay on the high ground. They kind of dance around, Warp Prism backs up here, warps in 4 more Stalkers, and then boom, you've got control over the main base and only 1 tank is going to try and reposition. That would have been so much better. But instead, Gungfu kind of like half blinks, doesn't get the Raven, barely gets any of the Marines, and uThermal's like, oh, shit. Okay. It's like it's gonna go on with life now. Gungfu, I mean, quick to realize that his momentum was not there. Grabs his third, grabs his charge, grabs his robotics bay, but talk about deflating. I was all hyped, and I was like, oh, okay. +1 will be done for uThermal very soon, as Gungfu just starts up his. Gungfu's got the patented parting warp prism. Patented parting priceless no, I can't think of it anymore. And that can do a lot of extra damage. If it gets like 4 or 6 extra SCV kills, which it could, if you're in a, I think if you're on a good map for it, there's a little less room for the Marines to chase after you and whatnot. I think you could get that much. But in this case, the Warp Prism really didn't do anything. So Gungfu forced to cut his losses very early on. This should make uThermal feel good about this game, if not great. Double drop in the main base is barely going to be scouted. Perfectly timed probe. Did Gungfu not actually see it though? Oh, I don't think Gungfu saw it. Oh no! The perfectly timed probe didn't report back to command. Oh, that's a good pylon right there. That's an Arthrosis pylon. Drop in the main is going to distract a lot of the units, and then of course uThermal attacking in more places than once. One, he is going to get their Colossus with the Raven Interference Matrix. The tank gets sieged up, the Bio still lives, but the Colossus also still lives. Just gotta wait out the Interference Matrix, go back to the shield batteries, and then we'll be cleaned up. But oh my god, what happened in the main? How did 12 or 16 Marines kill a Colossus? That must have been all alone. uThermal must have just gotten a concave on it. He kills the Colossus, he kills the Nexus, he still delays Extended Thermal Lance. That drop did so much damage, and it was scouted. Gungfu could have seen it if he was looking at the minimap. But all eyes were on the anticipated forward push. He knew that was coming, he was waiting for it, and didn't look at where his pylon was actually being placed, what it was seeing. Big old drop into the main is awfully dangerous, but Gungfu didn't actually see it. He is close by it, so I don't think it's gonna work, and yeah, uThermal scans and agrees. It works well if Gungfu's like, oh, I gotta go back to the front lines, oh, I go back to the third, but if he's right there, you're just kind of dropping into splash damage. That's not gonna look so pretty. So uThermal is gonna pull back for now. Now, he is on 2 bases. His third CC only 80% done. That is, not a great economy, but neither is Gungfu's. He lost his main. So 55 probes, not actually working to their best ability, still working more than uThermal, who's also been using scans instead of mules. uThermal very quickly adding on a second starport actually might find difficulty affording that and all of his barracks production, because his third isn't on the way. It's not mining. So that actually might be... There's not going to be full rounds of production, is what I'm getting to. There's not going to be full rounds of production, but is that going to matter? Gungfu has replaced a lot of his supply, but similar to some previous series, it's a lot of those zealots. There aren't any widow mines, but the zealots, they either do it or they don't, you know? Like, they run face first into the bio. Sometimes it's perfect, sometimes it's exactly the wall that you need for your Colossus to do damage. Sometimes they get kited, and then you're like, oh shit, zealots suck. So that is a downside of zealots. I know it doesn't feel that way. All the Terran players out there, I feel you, man. Protoss warps in 20 zealots, and we're trying to micro our hearts out, and we're like, oh, it's really cool, there's 20 zealots. But it is not the best composition a Protoss can have. And is more often better used to do these run-bys. So they'll build up this type of army, use it when they need it, and then when they can finally build something better, they'll send those zealots around the map and replace them with, well, more robo units or even more stalkers, honestly. Or more robo units especially. You know, ideally, Gungfu has had his 3 bases mining this entire time, so a second robo is probably on the way or finished. Second forge is building +2 weapons, you know, but that's not the situation. Gungfu's had to make some sacrifices. And is trying to make the most out of it. Some zealots do find just slightly less than necessary amount of reinforcements. uThermal had his army close enough that he handles it. That does pull his army every which way, only now consolidating in the middle. One disruptor looking for a couple of Marines. Not bad. Gonna remind uThermal that it's dangerous to go alone. Oh my god! Oh, good last second split. Good last second split. Still a third disruptor ready. It's got ammunition. Plus 2 Colossus in that choke's gonna be deadly. uThermal having enough of this damn choke. It's at least gonna widen it a little bit by killing these rocks. It still is one hell of a choke though. I mean, it only does so much. Warp Prism is heading into the main base. Only a single missile turret to stop that. uThermal is gonna push. Gungfu's gotta decide, defend or aggress. Is that a word? Ugh, he's choosing all defense right now. Warp Prism not gonna be in use. It's real tricky for Gungfu. Those Liberators are actually a big threat. Forced to give up his third Nexus by the looks of things. Barely gonna skirt around these Liberators, but the Colossus can't skirt around these Vikings. The Colossus are basically goners. I think you just have to sacrifice them and be okay with that. It's the Liberators that are gonna be able to hit everything else that you have. The Vikings, I mean, they could land, I suppose. They're definitely feisty when they land, but Liberators are what's really feisty. It's really holding on to this position. Couple Liberators siege it back at home, save the command center from burning. Gungfu wanting to break this, hoping to find uThermal, not paying attention, is not finding an idle Terran. He's got 5 disruptors, and uThermal's kind of playing with fire with the way that he's bulked up like this, but he looks like he wants to go for it. Lands the Vikings, or I guess he realized there's no more Colossus to worry about, so he lands the Vikings. If the Vikings died, then Gungfu could add on 1 or 2 more Colossus, and that would make a lot of sense. But the Vikings are just taking out the Nexus, free. No problem there. Find the 4th Nexus. Bunch of Zealots go across the map to find a heck of a lot of Liberators. But they're not sieged up. The walls are not open. Just kidding. Gungfu is desperately trying to find uThermal not paying attention somewhere. Maybe he doesn't pay attention to the wall. Maybe he doesn't pay attention to his army. But actually uThermal is paying attention at all the right times. And he is absolutely winning this game. There's no doubt about that. Gungfu would have to clear out this army and then go for the counterattack immediately, but it's not going to happen. Every disruptor was taken out right there. DT scanned as well. uThermal not going to lose control of this game. Drags the Zealots into the Liberators. It is going to be stimmed a lot. So the Zealots will get a couple of these last hits, sure. But this isn't all of uThermal's army. He's got all of those Liberators back home. He's got all of these Vikings, I was going to say, making an unnecessary trek across land. Gungfu, had he not lost all of his disruptors, I still wouldn't give him a chance because there's 6, 7 Liberators that his stalker numbers just simply can't deal with. Gungfu is gonna tap out. GG. Tied up series. God, there's like a cat convention right now. You good? I guess I'm asking for it when you have a cat tower and 5 cats. Alright, top right of 2000 atmosphere, setting out SCV. That is uThermal. Bottom left is the red Protoss. It is Gungfubanda. uThermal not just going for a single proxy Reaper. None of that weak shit. It's gonna go for a 2-Rex. Second SCV is on the way. Gungfu has been scouting with a probe, I guess after Gateway. Didn't actually pay super close attention to that. Yeah, I guess after Gateway, which still tells you that's a proxy racks in time for you to at least try to respond. Get a 7X core instead of a Nexus, if you weren't already. It's actually going to be... I mean, the most ideal scenario is that Gungfu goes Gateway, then Nexus with no scouting. And then doesn't stop the bunker from getting up, and then that could be a game over. But if Gungfu, first of all, scouts, which he will, sees very little gas, so knows the 2-Racks, then he should stop this Nexus and go for 7X core. That still isn't, it's not ideal because he's got 400 minerals instead of placing it down. Well, actually, I guess you would be banking anyways. Yeah, because you didn't get your gas. But now he's putting everything down at once. Gas, 7X core, Zealot, taking this extremely seriously, which he should. And this heavily reduces the chances of uThermal's attack actually winning the game. Let's see what the micro can do for uThermal. Get a quick second victory. It is pretty damn dedicated from the Terran, but it's not something that if it doesn't work, it's just game over right then and there. But I think against Protoss, there's more likelihood for it to be game over right then and there than against like a Zerg, rather. One SCV almost going down. Not quite, though. Good save on both sides. Shield battery now on the way now that the 7X core is done. One SCV does get taken down, but the second one's there. So the bunker will finish. And that is a nuisance. That is absolutely a nuisance. Gungfu not going to respond with patience and kindness. No, he's going to go for his own proxy. Stargate or Gateway? We'll find out. Gateway. I think I definitely prefer the Gateway. I think actually like a lethal blow might work here. A Stargate could do some serious damage if uThermal just completely neglected the idea of a Stargate, but it's unlikely. At the very least, you get a Cyclone. Shield battery comes in real handy here, but you need a lot of DPS to kill this bunker, and even a second one. SCV's looking around for any type of proxy by the looks of things, but it's going the wrong direction. Barracks is going to scout the main and see a second gateway, and it does not take a very large leap to say, oh, there's probably a third gateway in proxy. If they're going to dedicate like this, then they're going to dedicate like this. Because a 2 gateway isn't necessarily... That's not necessary to pushing back these bunkers. Eventually, you would build enough, and if you wanted to play a macro game, you'd maybe be going into a Robo or a Twilight Council, and that's just not the case. So uThermal eventually finds the gateway, or rather, finds the stalkers that were made from that gateway. Has no bunker, has no tech lab. He built Hellions. He was going for more aggression. And that is a problem. That is a huge problem. Gungfu has such an opportunity right now. He's gonna just, at the very least, deny so much mining. Eventually break out of this contain, you'd think. SCV's still going strong on the repair, I guess. Tech Lab's gonna go down, but the tank has started up, so that will at least pop out. But pop out into how many stalkers? At least 6, if not more. It's up to what Gungfu wants to go for. 6 stalkers are gonna do so much damage to the SCVs. uThermal just... I mean, he went for more aggression, went for more, you know, harassment. Thinking that Gungfu was gonna try and break out and... I don't know. Not proxy a gateway, I guess. Everything but proxying a gateway is what uThermal thought was gonna happen. But proxying a gateway is that lethal way of counterattacking. It's not just a little bit of an oracle rub-a-dub. It's not DTs that could theoretically be scanned and held against. Now, stalkers actually have that bust potential. Lots of probes went down, but so many SCVs went down that it's not good. It was 3 workers to 6 at the end of that game there. Gungfu will defend and take the 3rd game, putting him up 2-1. Oh, so Ziggy's looking real cute. Look at that Zigster Pigster. Zig. Hi. He's a little purr machine. You just say his name and he starts purring. Alright. Okay. Pet the kitty? Oh. Ah! Ziggy. Hello. Another brief pause in the best of 5. Keeps on sitting on my PC. I don't want him to. Hey, Zig. He's a good boy. He doesn't mind being held. He doesn't really like it that much, but he'll tolerate it. Okay? Okay. The other cats are looking at him. I'd say they almost look jealous. Ah, he keeps on jumping on top of the PC. In the top right of Oxide, we now have the blue Protoss, Gungfu. In the bottom left is the red Terran, it is uThermal. And that honestly messed with my brain for a little bit. They changed colors. So uThermal's little proxy, I would say, didn't go so poorly. It was the follow-up that really did him in. Going for a more Hellion for more harassment, well, the 2-Rax is pretty committed, but going for harassment left him with nothing that was really substantial in defense and was obviously threatening, very life-threatening for the attack. Could have also backfired there, I want to say. I was paying attention to the SCV losses and not the probe losses, but I thought Gungfu had a lot of units. I didn't think those Hellions would actually do as much damage as they did, but hey, they did. So you can see why he went for the follow-up. It's just that they had no... Yeah, they're not substantial units. There's no using them and then going, okay, we're base racing, let's go back home and defend and see who comes out ahead. Like the Hellions would have just died to the amount of stalkers that Gungfu could still warp in, could still micro with. So it was, you know, if he follows up with a Cyclone or a tank and plays a bit defensive, yeah, he doesn't kill a bunch of probes, but he probably doesn't lose very many SCVs at all either. I think actually he doesn't lose any, because if he had built a tech lab immediately in a tank, then yeah, he doesn't lose any SCVs. But then there's that whole complication of like, well, if I expand off of that, is the Protoss also just going to expand and eventually get ahead? With the amount of time the bunker was buying, I'd say it was probably better for uThermal to expand. It's hard to say. I'm a bit surprised that uThermal didn't give any thought to a proxy gateway. He really thought the 2-gate was going to be for the breakouts and potential counter, but if it was going to be a counter across the map, like you have to walk across the map, then you have time. Your tech lab finishes, your tank's on the way, you buy some time with repair. I think that's where his head was going. That it was a 2-gate to break and a 2-gate to counter. The proxy, plus the additional 3rd unit being created, that's what he was anticipating. Otherwise, he would have had not gone for the Hellions, I want to say. Simple as that. I don't know if you guys heard that. It's okay, they're not fighting, they're playing. Thank you, Ragnar Kit, for the raid. Apollo and Zing play fight. So we got ourselves a bit more of a normal game, but not necessarily. A 3-Rax is always going to have the little touch of dedication to it. If it is scouted, it can be perfectly defended, and it does hit for the power it has in the early game. I guess we call it early game. It loses some power if it fails, doesn't do anything, and is just ending up being a medivacs. You don't have that higher technology, you don't have as many medivacs, you don't have any tanks or wood mines to support you. And if you fail with it, you should have failed with it. Like you try to attack and they defend perfectly, you lose 16 Marines, 2 Marauders. Then you're completely gone out of the mid game, where Terran's supposed to be the strongest and really suppress the Protoss. So, yeah, there's always a touch of dedication to it, not all in, but wants to do damage. And if it doesn't do damage, then it's gotta be really swift with the medivacs. You know, if you don't commit with this army, if you're like, okay, I can't break them, fair enough, and you wait for your medivacs, that is your second and I think last chance to really get some serious damage done. Now, from the perspective of a Protoss player, I would say that it probably just always steals lethal, and it probably feels like a real BS build, because first you have to defend against the attack, this one that could come across the map, and then if they don't do it, they still have a very large bio army, and you're like, oh, I defended something that never came, and they still have a really good army. Blah. That's for the plebs to complain about. For the pros, a guy like Gungfubanda, I think he actually does a wonderful job of defending and then moving on with his life, basically, against Terran. I don't think I've ever really seen him be guilty of always over-defending or always under-defending. Like, he makes mistakes, of course, but it's one of those things I think he's quite good at. This is a little scary. Mordor losing its shields, like... But the force fields are also very scary for the Terran player, so... uThermal is... I think you look at that, you see how they got the shield battery, they got the high ground ramp, they got the immortal, and I think you actually just have to be like, yeah, I can't break that. So this is where Gungfu needs to identify and adapt and move on with his life about as quickly as possible. In this case, waiting for the Colossus is the most mature, responsible way of doing it. He took a year off of college, but then only took the year and didn't just take the opportunity to wallow in debt for all of his life. Probably got too real for someone out in chat. So now that he's good, now that his Colossus is here, his force fields are aplenty, and he's got a couple of those fodder units. Third Nexus is on the way. More technologies. uThermal lands, +1 attack. And a lot of these tech-based Terran openers, that +1 would already be faster. Actually, I'm not sure it'd be that much faster. That came down... Actually, I don't think it would be. It's the fact that Gungfu actually did out on the Forge for his third Nexus. That's what changed. But by playing a little conservative in the beginning, taking that threat seriously, now he should be able to reward himself with further defenses, basically. Like, he's built up a very solid army by keeping his initial army alive. Amazing how that works. And uThermal wants to do this push with the Medivacs, but he's actually already playing with a bit of fire. He's got this wonderful concave, but without Medivacs, he's not really prepared to engage. So Gungfu is actually pushing into an undeveloped army, forcing it to draw back, losing all of the ground gained. And uThermal only now getting his Medivacs. Could start to try and drop, but only 2 Medivacs. How many drops is that really? Not a lot. uThermal's third CC is on the way. He does actually still have a worker lead, but that's not exactly abnormal in this type of game. He's had his little income boosts. Gungfu's had his. Gungfu will eventually be mining a little bit more, but he really had to take all these threats seriously. This Chrono's actually been going mostly into the Robo, I think. Maybe? Not really been going into the Forge. It's been timed out with the Terrans. Gungfu still has this really solid army. It's not gonna buckle under pressure too easily. But if it does try to go out on the map and engage, uThermal, well, now he's got Medivacs, now he's got tanks, even more bio than before. Equal upgrades, like, this is scary for Gungfu, even though he's one on the aggressive side of things. It's actually kind of scary for him. Really nice grab. Three Marauders going down for just a couple of force fields is super nice. And some Zealots get caught. It's a bit of tit for tat, I suppose. And the recall is going to happen. I think that's very necessary. I don't know where SCVs... Oh, there's like 1 Zealot. A couple of SCVs go down. 5 of them. And the Zealot even lives? Nah. There you go. Really liked that recall from Gungfu. uThermal was... hunting for a fight. Yeah, that concave ready to go. Good attempt at stalker usage. Actually does grab the tank, so excellent use of stalkers. Now we're back to the more typical story of Oxide. Can the Protoss defend this choke? uThermal, though, actually, the rocks being broken down, decides to try and hit more into the natural. Not really a choke on anyone's side, and actually these tanks are trying to blast away, getting a lot of early shots, means the Immortal loses its shield, the Zealots don't have as much health, and then Gungfu actually does decide to go for the rights. I mean, better to pick somewhere to go other than waffling in front of the tank fire, right? But uThermal is able to evacuate with that bio army, now heading up to the top left. He's going after the third base, but Gungfu's not going to let him, or is he actually? This could be it. As far as the series goes, Gungfu going for the break is up against a huge concave of bio. His 3 Colossus are still alive. Make that 2 Colossus are still alive. 2 Immortals as well. Really starting to power through some of these Marauders. The shield batteries coming in absolutely clutch for the potential defense, but it might not be good enough. Vikings land on top of a lot of reduced health units. Disrupt is going to go for a shot. Find only a single Viking, and this might not actually be a hold. Gungfu also banking 800, 900 minerals. Would love to have 9 more Stalkers, but he can't get it. The stalkers he warps in are actually found before they have anything else to help defend. Probes are forced to be pulled into this. Gungfu so close to the defense is not quite going to make it happen. Last second DT to try and get a couple of kills. Barely gets anything. One disruptor is going to try and get the shot, and it's not going to find it. Gungfu loses 14 probes, loses his third nexus, loses all of his army, and uThermal successfully pushes in to grab game 4. It's going to game 5. There's nothing that Gungfu can do about it. Even the shield battery overcharge can't save him. If the concave wasn't so good for uThermal, Gungfu could have had that. But there is a lot of places to fight. A lot of places. And the Colossus just weren't as effective as they're supposed to be. Trying to figure out what the hell Garctic phone is. Kids in their new games. Whatever happened to the Fallout guys? What happened to them? I'm just kidding. I know Fall Guys is actually still alive, but definitely not as popular as it was for that brief shining month. I like the idea of boomers calling them Fallout guys, though. Alright, it's all tied up 2-2. Last map of the series. It's going to be on Blackburn. And in the bottom left, going for yet another proxy, it is uThermal. In the bottom right, it is Gungfu. Going for a forward-placed pylon. And no doubt wanting to go for a gateway nexus. If he can get away with it. He's going to see that he can't. And there's a very obvious spot that the Terran would proxy a Reaper in. It's a slow zone, but actually by putting the barracks in the slow zone, you reduce the slow zone effect on your Reaper just by a couple, like a second. Maybe literally a second. And slow zones do not affect the building of the building. Gungfu goes in, scouts the gases, knows that it's going to be Reaper, scouts where the most common Reaper proxy is going to be. Look at that. Amazing how this game goes. uThermal knows Gungfu's a gateway scouter. I don't think he's ever going to predict no scout from this Protoss player. So it's not about getting the surprise. It's about doing the actual damage, which he's done. In previous games, he's been scouted, he's been figured out, and he still has done a good amount of damage. Hard to do damage when you're blocked out, though, I gotta say. But this means that Gungfu has 3 gateways. 300 minerals. That, oh, I was gonna say it better blocked, but it actually doesn't because the Reaper Hop is good. That is a waste of 300 minerals. Because I was gonna say, like, is Gungfu gonna 1 base? Like, that's 300 minerals in there instead of a nexus. He's on 1 base, gonna 3-gate this guy. uThermal's gonna figure it out. Be like, oh, you really did just commit to 3 gateways. Build a factory, get a tank. Bunker even finished? Jeez. Oh, Gungfu not gonna take out this Terran, it feels like. The Depth Shade doesn't quite grab the Reaper. Lots of lost mining time. uThermal pumps out one more Reaper. Why not? Floats the barracks home on, here comes the tank. Now that he knows for sure, for a fact, that it's going to be one base build, this is an easy decision, but wait, there's more. Nexus comes down at the gold. That makes sense, that makes sense. There is a... If you're gonna have an awkward build where you eventually just concede defeat and go, I guess I'll expand, you better expand to a gold base. 2 Reapers still threatening a lot of probes, literally threatening this Adept. Threaten the Stalker. I mean, the 2 Reapers, they're going back in the bunker, they heal back up. So if they ever deal hull damage, which they got close to doing, that's permanent on the Protoss' side. Shields will regen, but not nearly as fast as the Reapers. But then 3 gateways. So, I mean, inevitably the Reapers will be taken care of, and inevitably they'll wonder, okay, what is your plan? You're not expanding? You have 3 gateways and you're not attacking either? uThermal shouldn't be too far off from scouting his opponent's gold base. He's doing the old scout now, looking for proxies. Did you hide a robo somewhere? It's building a warp prism or a gateway. Nope. So what's it gonna be? Oh, look at that. Gold base. Probes are recalled. Reapers could take a little time, yeah, exactly, to go for the probes. Well, maybe they should have evacuated. 2 Reapers going by for another drive-by. It's actually kind of scary for Gungfu, but now 1 Reaper's not nearly as scary. However, there's nothing scary about Gungfu's attack. 3 tanks. No, 3 tanks. That should not be broken by a bunch of blinkless stalkers. There you go. He was gonna let his stalkers take a face punch, but... No, that wasn't the shade he wanted. I think he was thinking, and then he canceled 1 shade, but then didn't have these clicked, I'm guessing. Even if the shades actually got through, it's 4 tanks now, and who knows what on the high ground. Gungfu doesn't know. So you're not breaking them. Which kind of sucks. Gungfu did invest into 4 Adepts. It's 3 more than I think he originally planned. No? Well, uThermal is microing his Viking, gets 3 probes. He's about to lose 3 SCVs. 4 SCVs. So, no. Well, there's 1 Viking for 4 Adepts, though. It's still a fair trade for uThermal, yeah? Indeed. Gold base is really starting to work. It's got a lot more income, especially as uThermal's only... Oh, he's actually not mule dropping. Perhaps a little... He has no idea what his opponent's following up with. All he saw was a Forge and a Twilight Council, and that could lead to a Dark Shrine, so... A little late some of the mule drops. But uThermal is pushing, and he's got 5 tanks. Now, if Charge was done, this is an easy army to clean up. Like, no problem whatsoever. But Charge is not even halfway done. If they're Warpling Stalkers, they'd have a difficult time against 5 tanks. And Stalkers... I mean, they're gonna do some serious damage with the SCVs here. No bunker ends up being a big problem for uThermal. His Marines are easily kited. But an entire Nexus was taken down. The tanks grabbed the freebie, and as long as they can make it home, I still favor uThermal's position, even as Gungfu shows off some of his micro, takes out a good dozen Marines. This game's really quite odd. Gungfu had apparently been already adding on a 3rd Nexus, so his natural is now 90% done. Charge is also finally finished, so these tanks are a lot less good. They're still good, but not nearly as much. All they need is some of that bio fodder to protect them, a couple medevacs to help out, and uThermal's army is better. Gungfu doesn't have any upgrades, but he has started at least +1 armor, too, so really focusing on the charge. Scan's gonna see very late gases. Now, he doesn't know if that's been built for a while. I guess by the health of the minerals, he can tell that's a very brand new Nexus. So the gases are probably just because it's a brand new Nexus. That's why they weren't put down. But I mean, it might be a little difficult to tell in the game. Gungfu is going for Charge Archon Storm. And I'm not sure uThermal can 100% tell that from the situation. Sometimes Protoss players don't want to go in a Storm after a Twilight Council build. In this case, it's a Charge build, that you get the point. Because it's a little on the nose. It's expensive, but can be microed against much better than the very safe, reliable Colossus, which doesn't really get a straight-up counter to it until, you know, they can actually produce Vikings, which is quite expensive for a Terran. But Storms, you don't need EMPs to take out High Templars. Splits and drops will do the trick. Splitting against the Storm, dropping away from where the High Templars are located and thus unprotected, you know, like that's where sometimes the fast Storm option, the follow-up Storm option, doesn't look so hot. But I gotta say, it is really good against SCV pulls, and that is exactly what uThermal's doing. uThermal just needs to make sure the SCVs don't run face first into Storms, but maybe that's not gonna happen. Oh my god, the Marines are already taking so much damage that the tanks are still so scary. A good 10 Marines, 12 Marines are taken out there, maybe even more. They are so crucial to stopping these Zealots from getting on top of the tanks. That one Storm doing so much. Another Storm's in Gungfu's pocket. Actually, I think the Storm might have done the trick. Because the SCVs are supposed to kind of blitz, you know? Like, they go face first, they say, charge! And they attack all the Zealots, or get attacked by the Zealots. But if they're going to charge face first in a Storm, the SCVs are so much more useless. And you commit. You've committed to the 2-base. You've committed to the SCV pool. You don't pull back at this point. uThermal would have done, I think, the same stuff. Would have done the same amount of damage if he hadn't pulled the SCVs, basically. Because Storm is in play. Wouldn't mind, don't even quite to get to Burrow as Gungfu cleans up the push and cleans up uThermal in this best of 5. GG. A funky last game. But it does end in the Protoss' favor. Gungfu just proving that he's very good in this matchup. Took down a lot of Terrans on the way here. Clem included.